Um, Hello, learners. In this video, I'm going to be introducing to you this concept of personality in organization behavior or human psychology at work. I'm going to cover this topic in three different parts. In the first part of the video, I'm going to introduce to you the concept of personality, what it means with two interesting cases of two individuals, what it means and what are the different factors that form the personality of an individual and what are the various influences that form the personality of an individual over a period of time, and we look at some traits uh, where we can understand how we generally tend to know the personality of an individual. The second part of the video, we will look at the theories of personality. What do different psychologists, how did they look at this very intriguing aspect of individual personality, and what sort of research did they carry out, and what do their theories help us? What do they reveal, and then how do these theories help us to understand ourselves and also our human personality? And in the third aspect, we will look at other factors of personality variables that help us to understand the nature of individuals, that helps us to understand people who work in organizations or people who live with us in society, through which we will be able to make some assumptions and predictions to know how they conduct themselves, or how they, how to deal with them, how to interact with them, how to understand them, or to possibly know the negative and the positive sides of those individuals and all of that. Right now, uh, what do we understand by personality? So let's look at all of that one by one in detail. So what are we going to cover in this topic? As I just gave you a short brief, and I told you that we're going to be looking at understanding the various factors that determines one's personality. Then we will look at two interesting, very popular theories of personality: the MBTI model and the Big Five personality model. And then we will look at other personality factors and characteristics that are very relevant for individuals in the organization to understand themselves, and also for managers and the management team of the organization to also know how to understand, identify individuals, know their positives and negatives, and then be able to work with them and through them. So let's look at two interesting cases. First, I'm going to present to you a case of a girl called Priyanka. Right, as the case reads, Priyanka is a devout Hindu, believes that everything in is associated with karma. In her career, she has not been very successful as others would term it. She is someone who will call a spade, because of which she is disliked and hence couldn't be successful at any job she took up, since she would do what she thinks is right. Now, I'm just giving you an example of an individual for you to visualize. You have this girl called Priyanka, and she's a devout Hindu, and then she believes that everything in her life is a result of karma. So it's an attitude that she's developed over a period of time, which is now very evident a part of her personality. And she believes her success and failures are largely determined by her deeds, by her own karma. And then she is an individual. Now this is what people around her uh, say about her, right? So they say she's an individual who's very straightforward, who tells what she thinks or feels. She's very straightforward. She's just upfront on things which many may not be happy about, or they may not be willing to accept what she says. They may not take it very sportively, or take it in a very positive manner as such, right? So we have individuals like Priyanka, right? Now, whose personality is developed, her attitude is developed over a period of time. Now, her entire persona reflects this belief and attitude that she carries within herself, which is now very evident in her behavior as such. So, when we have to deal with people like Priyanka, now how do we perceive a girl like Priyanka? Now, how do we understand her. Now, how do we interact with her? If we have to work with her in a group, what sort of adjustments or what sort of assumptions we will make, or how do we interact and how do we deal with her, right? So this is where knowing personalities and understanding a little about them becomes very, very interesting and important for us. Let's look at the second example. We have another interesting example of a person called Jeremy. Now, Jeremy is a very good natured guy, somebody who caught the attention of everyone when he started job. When he joined the organization, he was the blue-eyed boy of everyone because of his very charming personality as such. So he got many responsibilities in the beginning, and eventually he got many responsibilities, and he did that very well. He earned a lot of good name, right? And eventually, as newcomers started coming into the organization, the firm felt that it was important for them to delegate these responsibilities to others to also make the newcomers feel very comfortable, and the newcomers also to be occupied, to be learning and knowing about the job. So this very good nature, or this good uh, decision of the management to ensure that the opportunities are equitably distributed and they treat everyone equally, and make everybody comfortable, is something that did not go well with Jeremy. Jeremy perceived this as very negative. So he felt bad, hurt, and he felt ignored. And so he decided to just keep himself away. Hence, he has started becoming withdrawn and does not want to discuss it with the management. And when many of his friends and colleagues understood what is the reason for him to be going sober and sulking, and when they advised him to go and talk to the managers or go talk to the management and tell them that I would like to take up more responsibilities, so please consider. So he said he would not want to do that because he feels that I don't want to go begging for these kind of chances and opportunities. Right now, this is Jeremy, the second interesting case that I'm presenting to you. Now, when you look at Jeremy, now how could somebody who's so good natured uh, not be able to accommodate or not be able to accept this feeling of uh, others taking opportunities or others doing well, or not able to see the same point of view as what the management is seeing? Why would he think very selfishly for himself and not understand that if he were in the position of the management, and then if he were to take care of the members who are coming into the organization and to treat everyone equally, how would he do it as such, right? Now, how did Jeremy develop this sort of a attitude, this sort of a personality, and why is he in this sort of a state, and why is he going through this mental stress? This is all something that we can understand. So with two interesting individuals like Priyanka and Jeremy in the organization, we deal with hundreds of people like this, and each of them are a personality or a package in themselves. They have their own ideas, they have their own belief systems, they have their own perceptions, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different formations, right? They have their they have their own individual likes and dislikes. So they're a package in itself. Each and every individual who comes into the organization is a whole package in themselves. So when we interact and deal with them, right, we are dealing with their whole self, right? So getting to know these personalities a little before we interact with them, or going with a certain assumption of how to talk to them, how to approach them, how to deal with them, how to begin to understand and respond, or connect with them. All of this is something that requires a good understanding and a good knowledge of personality. So now coming to this whole concept of personality and organization behavior. So when we talk of personality, we are not talking about the physical characteristics of an individual. Very often in layman understanding, physical personality is often associated with physical characteristics. Because these are the visible aspects of any individual. We always identify individuals based on their physical appearance. We might say this person, the tall person in the group. How do you identify somebody? You could say the tall person in the group, or the dark person in the group, or the short person in the group, or the plumpier person in the group, or the very charming person in the group, or the person with lesser hair, right? So you identify people through their physical characteristics, but it's not just the physical characteristics that become the personality. Personality is a whole concept. It's a whole self of the individual, right? So it just does not include the physical characteristics or the visible parts of a person. It also includes the psychological characteristics or the invisible parts of the person, which we will get to understand only when we interact with them wholly. So what is personality? Personality in very simple understanding can be stated as the sum total of ways in which an individual reacts and interacts with others. So when you talk to another individual, you are bringing your whole self in conversation with that individual. It's your whole perception, your attitude, your assumption, your beliefs, your value system. You are a total package interacting with another individual, right? So each and every individual who is meeting or interacting and then connecting with one another is doing with their whole personality as such. So getting to understand these traits and characteristics is a very important aspect. Now, when we look at how do personalities form, how do individuals develop a personality, or how do they have a certain persona for themselves, like if we want to go back to those two interesting cases of Priyanka and Jeremy. If you want to go back to Priyanka's case and find out now, people could ask how did she become, how did Priyanka develop this very strong attitude towards karma, and why does she believe or attribute that everything in her life is a result of karma? Right? Now, if you ask Priyanka, if you take Priyanka into confidence, and then when you uh, ask her, what makes you believe in karma? What makes you become so religious? And why are you so straightforward with people? Why don't you think how they will feel? Or why don't you think about your own position as to being very straightforward and calling a spade is often putting you into trouble, right? So Priyanka could be able to give you an answer. She could tell you that she may have been a person like this, and that's why she continues like this. Or she could possibly say maybe about 10 years ago when I was growing up, I wasn't like this kind. I wasn't like this kind of a person, but these circumstances and experiences in life has made me. Or she could say I've grown in this environment and I've seen people like this, so that's why I've become like this. Or if you look at Jeremy and ask Jeremy, why is he this sort of a nature, right? Or if you could get to talk to his parents or his siblings or his friends or others who knew Jeremy very well, they they could give an understanding. They could say it's because of these. If they know where Jeremy comes from, about his family, his parents, and rest of the other circumstances in which Jeremy grew up, right? Now that could possibly give you an answer as to why Jeremy could have become like this. So when we start probing a little deeper into the personalities of individuals, we go to the factors. We try to find out what influences their personality. So primarily we look at three aspects. One is definitely heredity, right? So most physical characteristics or physical nature that every individual has is mostly, uh, you know, transferred to us through our genes, through our DNAs, from the time we grow. So this could include both physical characteristics as well as psychological traits. Physical and psychological traits both could be something that we could have received as part of our growth as from the time when we were born. So it's something that is transferred to us from our older generation, and that's what is part of the lineage that we belong to. The second aspect that shapes an individual. Yes, you may have been born with a certain physical characteristics, with a physical trait, with a certain nature, which is inborn, as we call it. But this takes a certain formation or takes a certain shape or takes a certain nature due to the interaction with the stimuli in the environment. So, as an individual, when I am born and when I deal with the environment, when I deal with people in the environment, when I'm part of a family, when I'm part of friend circle, when I'm growing up in a certain society, in a certain culture, and I'm growing up in a certain time, and I'm given to certain influences, all of that, all those stimuli will have a certain bearing over my growth and my understanding and my personality. So, how I respond and interact with the stimuli that I receive from the environment in which I'm growing up or the environment in which I belong to will influence my personality. And the third definitely will be situations. What makes each and every individual learn and groom and develop a personality are those experiences. Some experiences can be life-changing experiences. Some situations could be, could have made us, what we are. We could have become some nature or some quality of ours which has made us very strong or made us more value-oriented or have considered certain things to be very important or to prioritize certain aspects in life. Now, it's something that we could have got this through life experiences, through situations that we've gone through in our life, or through situations that we have seen others who we role model or with whom we are growing up, going through it. So all of these three aspects, are not happening one after another. These are three influences or uh, three sources of influence that keep happening simultaneously, and this keeps happening as even as we continue to live and grow. Even as I keep talking, the environment is making an influence over me, or the situation that I am going through, or the situation that I am in right now, could also be influencing me as such. So personality is a very dynamic concept. That is what we need to understand. It's not very static. It's not once formed, it continues like that, right? It is a very dynamic aspect. You as an individual are a living and a breathing being. So you interact with the environment. You interact with different kinds of people every day. Every day is a different experience. Every situation is a different encounter. So all of that is what makes you who you are, right? So those are the three aspects of personality that we need to understand. Now, what are the different characteristics of an individual personality? Right? So if you want to understand a little more, how do we understand how people are, right? Now, these are 16 different traits that were researched by psychologists. They've identified, you can always identify individuals and say that they possess these traits or they have these traits, right? So you could say, okay, how do you identify somebody, right? Or if someone asks you, how do you explain how is this person? Or somebody says, how's your father? What kind of a person is your father? What kind of a person is your mother? Right? Or what kind of person are you? Right? You might describe something about yourself. And very often, when you're describing something about yourself, you are necessarily telling the others about your traits. Right? Now, what kind of a person you are? Generally, you could say, I'm an extroverted person. I'm a very practical person. I like a lot of things in life. I love a lot of good things in life. I'm a very peace loving person. I'm very confident. Uh, or you could say I'm a very people's person. Or you could say I'm very reserved. I keep to myself. I don't talk much. Any of those things that you're saying is just a revelation of your personality. You're only describing what kind of a person you are. Based on the inputs of traits and the nature of personality that you've given, people tend to understand. They tend to perceive you first, and then they understand. And then they begin to decide the kind of approaches or decide the kind of uh, way in which they would want to interact. So whenever we deal with people, we go with a certain preconceived notion or a certain approach. Sometimes when you begin to feel that the person is an introvert and is very closed, and you want to have a conversation with that person, you're going with an assumption that that person is introverted. He may talk less, right? So either it could put you into a state of confidence, or it may put you into a certain state of anxiety. But you are going with a certain preparation, and when you go and you interact, right? When you interact, you say something and the person gives you an answer, and the person asks you something, you give an answer, and as you get into a conversation, after a certain period of time, maybe after 5 or 10 minutes of the conversation, either you could be right saying that the assumption of this person being very introverted and will talk less as right, or you may encounter a different experience where the person that you thought was introverted and less spoken is now able to hold a conversation well, is now able to enrich the conversation, or is making everything so nice and comfortable, is talkative, is so you come to this conclusion that uh, he or she is not like the way I assumed. Then you might come back and say, I initially, or you might tell the same person at the end of the conversation, you might say, initially I was a little, I thought you will be very reserved. I thought you'll talk less, and I thought there wouldn't be much of what I can talk to you. But and after the end of the conversation, or after having known you and met you and spoken to you for so long, I get to understand that you're a very different kind of a person, right? So those sort of encounters, or those only when we interact with people do we understand about people and personalities. And getting to know this is very important because we can make some right assumptions, we can perceive people correctly, we go with a certain impression about them, and all of that will help us to do the right things of knowing the people in society or in organizations, be able to know how to work with them, deal with them, know them, and to have a better relationship with them. Right. I hope this particular introductory video on personality traits and the different factors that influence personality is of good help to you. So when we come back in the next part of the video, we will look at what the psychologists had to say, what kind of theories did they come out with, and how did they look at unraveling this whole enigma of personality from their own point of view, or from their own respective lens, as we can see what research reveals, right? So let's see you in the next part of the video, and thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you.